This is Kugan Cassius for iFilm London. We're at the Miranda Carter show here in Bethnal Green, York Hall, Sunday Rumble. With me, I have Steve Bunce. I'm sure there's many people that wouldn't actually believe that me and you would actually be stood there, judging by Twitter, in the same interview, but we are. There is no beef, Steve.
No, there's never been a beef, but people like to build things on Twitter, and the thing with Twitter is a brilliant vehicle, Cougar. You know, you use it fantastically. Other promoters use it fantastically. Boxers use it fantastically. They could use it better, and I use it. I'm not going to say fantastically, but I think I use it well. We push things out there. But what happens is sometimes things get blown out of all proportion. I tend to get the blame for most of the wrongs in the British boxing industry, to be perfectly honest with you, which I think is a little bit harsh. I had to ban about 150 people when David Hay cut his eye, because for some reason I was getting abuse over that.
Well, you got the blame for that?
Not necessarily the blame, but I said, listen, fighters get cut in sparring, and I got all this abuse. So trust me, it can backfire, and I think that's a little bit what happened with yourself.
There's I know it's Twitter, and I know you shouldn't really take it too seriously, but it's the way, especially in the boxing world, everything's said and run, and people fall out on Twitter, etc., etc. From my point of view, there are probably a couple of things that I've seen you say in the past before that I haven't really understood myself. I haven't really spoke to you about it, but this whole concept of the do it for free brigade, because a lot of people out there, including ourselves, because I think that we sort of half fall into this bracket. We're probably a little bit more well-known than some of the other people doing their thing online and things, but surely any promotion of boxing in this country is good promotion, Steve?
Any promotion is good promotion, but with regards to what you're talking about the doing it for free and the idea that you go along and do something, that's absolutely commendable. That's fantastic. But I grew up in a generation where you couldn't do it for free because, wait for it, you had to pay the rent. So 25 years ago, when I was living just down the road from here, I had to pay the rent when I first started out. 20 years ago, when I was living over in Finsbury Park, I had to pay the rent. So I couldn't not go to shows, which meant that in this place here, when I was banned by the ABA, that door there was where I used to get in, to be perfectly honest with you. And when Mickey Duff banned me for 3 years, luckily I had a paper I was working with, a Telegraph, and they agreed to let me buy tickets to get in. So consequently, a lot of Bruno fights, McCracken fights, Henry Wharton fights, Billy Schwer fights. Unfortunately, Henry Akinwande in Germany. Why I went over to that, I don't know. But I had to buy tickets for those and provide proof to keep going. So my problem, not necessarily with you, but with anybody that does it, who then suddenly stops doing it, and this is what you're talking about, I can't understand how you can stop doing it if you need to keep on doing it to get a living. You stop covering Frank Warren's fights for a period, and his promotions, his press conferences and his weigh-ins, and I can't see how you can do that unless you're banned. If you're banned, it's one thing. Mickey Duff banned me, so I keep on going. Just because you have a disagreement with somebody, you have to keep on doing it, because I have to keep on doing it. Well, maybe you don't. I do, because I had to get a living.
The way we view our company has always been, for the last 3 years since we're doing it, it's just a work in progress. So when I say we do it for the free brigade, like I said, we sort of half fall into that category and we half don't, because we're trying to build our company up.
Which you've built, in all fairness.
In the sense it's not finished.
You're high profile, so that's even, in my opinion, gives more ballast to my argument that you should just, unless you're banned, forget your differences and get out and cover those fights. Again, I must have banned 1,000 people since we had a quotes-unquotes fallout. Nothing to do with me. All I told you to do was to get out, get in gear, and get to the weigh-in, unless you're banned. I mean, I went to press conferences. I've been to a press conference, and Duff's come out off the top table, seen me hiding, and thrown me out. Now, I know you guys weren't banned. You had a disagreement.
Yeah.
Now, and listen, it may have been an ugly disagreement, and if it hadn't been resolved, correct me if I'm not right, it could have cost you a lot of money. It could have. I mean, listen, any disagreement could cost you money. And that's not an implication of guilt. But let's assume it wasn't resolved, which I understand it has been, and let's assume it ended up in court, okay, which is where it could have ended up, and let's assume you lost. There's got to be a winner, there's got to be a loser. It could have cost you a lot of money. So my advice at that time, which I think maybe was misunderstood, was get out there and carry on doing what you're doing.
Okay. Okay, listen, without going into the issue, there was an issue which has now been resolved, but listen, we just did it our way. So, listen, you did it your way, and like I said, I read your tweets about, get out there, and you was banned, but you still went there anyway. But that's how you decided to do things. But
because I had to get a living. If I hadn't have gone, if I hadn't have covered, at that time when Mickey Duff banned me, he was putting on probably nearly half of the big fights. Not a lot of the small horse shows, but probably half of the British, European, Commonwealth and world title fights were Mickey Duff promotions. So those are the ones that were getting in the Daily Telegraph at the time. I couldn't roll up my tent and move off to the next festival. I had to stay there and listen to the music. It was a bit flowery, that son. You like that? Like that, boy? That was for you. Come in!
I think they want you. Another autograph for you. Just one more thing about, just to put a cap on this. The thing about our thing being viewed as coverage. Can you just clarify what you said about that?
Let me clarify that. I forgot about that. That got really blown out of all proportion. This is the way it works, right? You provide, as I've said in countless tweets, a terrific service. A service that reaches an awful lot of people, okay? However, as a journalist, an old school journalist who shows up at fights at York on a Sunday in his tweed jacket, I don't count that as the coverage I want. Of course it's coverage, it's blanket coverage. But if I want to read a report or speak to Johnny Greaves or find out about Johnny Greaves' 100th fight, then I'm going to, go through Johnny Greaves. Because that's how I get my coverage. That's how it worked out. It wasn't that yours wasn't coverage, but it wasn't how I get my coverage. So it was a case of coverage. Do you get that? It's a moot point in some ways, because some people said, or hundreds of people said, but they are providing coverage. And I never disagreed that you were providing coverage. The difference was, it's not my coverage. With no disrespects, if there's an interview with Darren Barker, done by Trish Dixon, if there's an interview with you on your website, I'm going to read Trish Dixon's one. And that's not a slight on you. You guys are entertainers, first and foremost. And you provide a great service, secondly. Correct or not correct?
Correct.
If I want to read a report on a fighter, I'm going to try and either go to Source, speak to Tony Sims, speak to Darren Barker, speak to Eddie Hearn, who, contrary to popular belief, I still talk to, there's not a problem, or I'm going to speak to what I would classify as a different type of source for my coverage. You guys are not guys I would turn to for coverage, but that doesn't mean what you do isn't coverage.
Okay.
So it was not a failure to acknowledge what you do under any circumstances, but I wasn't going to say I turn to you guys. That's like an endorsement. You guys provide what you provide, and it's fantastic. The stuff you do with Eddie is entertaining. The stuff you do with the other fighters is entertaining, which gets back to what I was saying about you guys needed to be back out there. And I'll be honest with you, if I was 30 years younger and I had a terrific camera like James is holding there, during that 6-week gap, you'd have been in trouble. Because during that 6-week gap, no one stepped into the breach. Everyone just wants to write 10,000 words on Mayweather. How someone didn't go, I'll have a bit of that 1,200-pound cannon. Those guys aren't there, I'll get out and do it. It was a mistake. And by the way, it was a mistake that, to this day, I'm stunned was made. I think you got away with it there. You missed the Kovalev, Cleverly stuff. Oh. It was big stuff and there was no one covering it.
Didn't get any coverage.
Listen,
it didn't get any coverage. That's back to that word coverage, and I agree with you.
Do you know what? The way we view this coverage thing is that we obviously film press conferences, weigh-ins, post-fight press conferences, which we deem to be coverage, because I've been to press conferences before, I've been to weigh-ins before where no one's filming it. I'm sure you've been to press conferences before where there hasn't been a camera there.
Absolutely.
So that's the coverage that we feel that we provide. The interviews we do are
Which is coverage.
Yeah, but the interviews we do are an acquired taste.
Yeah.
So your hardcore boxing people that necessarily listen to you or Trish Dixon or Ron Lewis or any of these people, it's a completely different market who watch our stuff.
And you're absolutely right. But I also belong to the generation I won't sit and watch on my iPad or my phone a 50-minute press conference. They're turgid and rubbish enough as it is without having to watch your static film of it, which is, to sort of slightly contradict myself, is of course pure, hardcore, simple coverage. I'll give you that. That's simple coverage. I was dealing more with the interviews. Okay, maybe should have been a bit more specific, and said that the straight coverage of post-fight, pre-fight conferences and weigh-ins without comment is absolutely straightforward. I should have said that. Maybe I should have said that's because that's natural coverage.
Straightforward, but no one films it apart from us. A lot of these things.
I know, which gets back to my point again. As someone didn't jump in when you were quite noticeable by your absence, I think is stunning.
Did you notice we weren't there?
Of course I noticed you weren't there. On my timeline, I usually have 1,000 people retweeting your interview with X, Y and Z. I had a right peaceful 6 weeks.
So good. Does he agree I do more than just carry a tripod?
Oh, yes.
Did I say that?
You said that James is like basically there's a tripod carrier.
Right, and by the way, there's nothing wrong being a tripod carrier, but if I said that, it was an expression as opposed to a fact, because I've seen you working on your own when Coog gets the juicy ones and you get the little shows. The coverage thing. I mean, hopefully that makes sense now, all right? Because and it's no disrespect, but I'm not going to turn to you guys for interviews. I mean, over the years, Coog, you work ways to work, and you know what I mean by that. There's ways you work. There was a time years ago when I would have sat here and I've got the programs to show it. On a show like this, a small hall show at York Hall on a Friday night, and you're making notes by every fight. You're going out your way to speak to every fighter. And I do that for schoolboys, and that's the way I worked, and that's the way I came into the game. Now, that's not the way people work now. We have veterans in the game now who've been in it 3 or 4 years. When I first started at the Telegraph, I was known as a special correspondent for nearly 4 years. I didn't even have a name. It said by a special correspondent. And that's the way it was. So it's a different kind of theatre that I started in. And it was a different way of doing business, the way I did business. So what I do now is you take those journalistic skills and those broadcasting skills that you've picked up during 25, 26, 27 years in the business, and you learn to cut corners. So that means, I'll hold my hands up. I don't think I've probably ever sat and watched a complete rerun of a press conference. I don't mind a transcript. That's what I like about Mayweather big fights in Vegas or big fights in America that Kelly Swanson looks after. You get a transcript. It might be 32 pages, but I don't mind the transcript. All of the inanities and the fact you're just watching 6 men on a table thank the sponsors and God, I don't do that. So that's probably why I didn't add that to whatever tweet it was, because I've never seen it. But that's coverage. I'll give you that's coverage. The other stuff I don't classify as coverage.
All right, listen, that's fair enough. You're entitled to your own opinion. But like I said, there are many people that view our stuff, watch our stuff. It's for them.
Oh, no,
it ain't
I've had
for you.
to ban most of them.
You ain't got to ban all of them.
No.
Listen,
I ban the ones that swear and accuse me of all sorts of sexual acts. So I have to ban them, as you can imagine.
But listen, we ain't got a choice. We got to watch you on Bunce's Boxing Hour because it's your show.
Yeah, it's it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. It's live for a start, which is terrific. I like live, and I think all shows of that nature should be live. Otherwise, they're just a series of potted interviews put together by an editor in a room somewhere. So we're live. We operate with complete and utter freedom. We've never ever refused anybody. I've told people I don't want them on. That's a different situation. And it is what it is. I think it's a fun show. It's not everybody's cup of tea. We mention an awful lot of fighters on it. And as I say, as we said about 3 minutes ago, it is what it is.
All right, well, listen, Steve, thank you very much for your time. I'm glad we've ended the alleged Twitter beef, which wasn't really a Twitter beef, but
it got a lot of coverage.
This interview will get a lot of coverage this is what I'm going to tagline it: Kugan Cassius, and I'm going to put my name ahead of yours because it's our thing. Kugan Cassius and Big Daddy Bunce end their feuding Twitter war beef.
Or more coverage.
Or more coverage. But listen, keep doing your thing, we'll keep doing our thing. People will watch your thing, people will watch our thing, and it's all for the good of boxing.
And in all fairness, and I'm delighted you are back doing your thing, to be perfectly honest with you, because you won't ever find that. I mean, there's a dispute over what I consider coverage and what you guys consider coverage and what your fans consider coverage. but there's no dispute, and there's never been a dispute, and you'll never find it on any timeline anywhere of me saying it wasn't good. So there you go.
How many of our interviews do you think you've watched?
Oh shit, dozens and dozens.
You have watched something?
Oh, over the years, yeah.
Oh.
Of course, over the years.
Steve Bunce watches I from London. God,
you've
unbelievable.
You've got to watch them. I mean, I don't watch them religiously, but of course, over the years I've watched loads. I mean, I did one about 5 years ago. Remember?
You did.
Yeah,
They're one of our first ones.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So I've watched, and over the years I've watched loads. But you know, that watching. I mean, where was it? There was some. I mean, I watched. You suddenly pull up stuff where you grab someone that's there. That's interesting, yeah. Because I know that's going to be a different type of interview. But I'm not going to watch one with that rascal Eddie Hearn talking about a jumper or giving you stick for a hoodie, am I? I mean, that's just a little bit.
That's just a little skit. You don't have to take that seriously. People just watch it for what it is. It's a bit of light-hearted.
No, I know. And I saw the first ones because you remember rightly when I had a good year working over at Matchroom, doing a podcast twice a month from over there, and you did a lot of stuff then. You started to do stuff over there, and you did a sort of day in the life of Matchroom,
Yeah, that's when we first started.
and it was fun gear, 2010ish. It was all fun gear then. Yeah, I got no problem with that.
Day in the life of Steve Bunce. You up for it?
You know what? It's been. If you get it on a good day, it'd be lovely. You get it on a bad day. At the moment, no one's talking to me in my family. I've been so miserable the last 6 weeks, and then the thing with Dean knocked me over. Really, it's been hard old 6 weeks. Yeah.
Funerals on Tuesday for
Funerals
that.
on Tuesday,
in Greenwich. Yeah.
It's going to be hard to make that enjoyable, which is maybe it's just one of those funerals where no one cracks their face. That you do actually just go. You know, I've never actually been to a child's funeral yet, and I hope I never have to go to one. But they're those type of funerals where there's no laughter. No one sits around patting each other on the back and remembering things fondly. It's a bit too raw. That could be the case at Dean's.
Okay. Well,
Right,
Steve Bunce, thank you very much for talking to us. I was going to put my arm around you so people know, like, it's over.
It's over.
It's a shame because I've got no one to slag off on Twitter anymore.
It didn't start, but it's over.
Kugan Cassius with Steve Bunce here at York Hall for iFilm London. Thank you very much.